today we're going to focus on air curtains in the pest control industry, right? And how air curtains can be an effective part of your integrated pest management solutions. I think there's a lot of it's somewhat of a niche market, right, for air curtains, but I think there's a lot of applications that are often overlooked in this industry. So, really, hopefully the goal today is, we can reinforce some of the common applications of air curtains that you would typically think of. But really where I think that next level of selling or awareness is going to come is hopefully we can, just make you aware of some additional opportunities and selling points of air curtains that you can look out for in the future. So that being said, this is going to be the agenda. Just going to start out with quick value proposition, talk a little bit about, again, where I see air curtains really being used in the pest control industry. And then really after that, just give you more of a broader understanding. So like I said, I think there's specific applications you could typically think of air curtains being used in pest control. But where the value is going to come in is what are these other opportunities? How else can I sell these, right? That's going to be hopefully the goal for today. And then, again, as usual, those of you that have been on these webinars before, I'll let you guys know where you can access some resources we have available if you want to do some additional training and learning on your own time. And then we'll have some time at the end for some Q&A as well. So that being said, again, starting out with the value proposition here, right? So I believe in an ideal world, right, especially when we're talking about pest control specifically, if every building was sealed off entirely, right? Every HVAC system was 100% efficient. Everything would be perfect, right? We wouldn't really have need for air curtains or have to worry about these losses that happen. But in the real world we live in today, right? Doors open, close, windows are opening, closing. You're having losses, whether that's temperature losses or you're getting, building contaminants coming in, dirt, debris, obviously. And in this instance of pest control, flying insects is included in that as well. So air curtains are just, I think another tool where, if we really start incorporating them more, we can actually stop these issues or at least hinder them from happening as much at the entry doors before, the bugs and pathogens and things like that really actually get into the building and we're having to take care of the problem there. So that's kind of the idea of what we're hoping to do with air curtains, and we'll kind of get into more of that in a sec here. Now, specifically air curtains in the pest control industry. So, like I said, I think pest control for the most part, obviously is mostly flying insect control in terms of, where you would see the use of air curtains. It's a pesticide-free alternative to, fly zappers, bug lights, bug repellents. So, pretty friendly in that respect as well. And like I said, I really think the idea here is to focus on what are these other selling points, right? I mean, obviously, we do a really good job with flying insects. That's probably going to be your way into the door. But, depending on, again, a lot of you, especially that are just in pest control, that could be your main selling point. But if that doesn't resonate as well with your customer or there's other issues that you might typically not think of, again, temperature control being one of those as well. Hopefully that can be another selling point or something else that can stick with your customer. Now, in terms of where do most of the opportunities lie, believe it or not, I see this as kind of a common misconception as well with pest control. So, I think ideally, and a big thing we're trying to do is incorporate air curtains more in the new construction phase, right? Getting air curtains into the building as it's being built, preventing the issue before it really even starts. And while that's ideal, there are ultimately more unserved doors than doors currently out there, right? So in my opinion, I think every door has some sort of application or benefit or use of an air curtain. But it really just comes down to, what that benefit or what that, solution could really be, depending on what kind of door it is, where it's opening to, right? All those kind of, potential issues that could come up. And like I said, all you guys are really in these buildings or dealing with these buildings already. So it's really just kind of, getting under the iceberg there and really just understanding what else, how else can we sell these and use these in the market. So that's going to be the general idea there. Now, going into how they actually work, right? What are we doing with the air curtains? Really, all it is it's just using a controlled stream of air to separate or prevent two environments from mixing across typically like a door opening. So most of the time, right, that's going to be preventing the outside air from getting into the building. Or vice versa, right? If you've got conditioned air or you have a nice, clean, really good indoor air quality measure, you're preventing that from escaping the building as well. So, again, kind of like I was talking about in the value proposition, we're just using that stream of air to kind of be another level of protection, when that closed door can't always be closed. So that's the general idea of how they work. Couple of cool videos I like to show here. So first one is what we've done with a smoke machine. So I'll just go ahead and play the video here. Again, air curtains, you can't really see what's going on. So that's kind of why we like to use the fog machine test here. You can see, if you imagine that being some sort of pathogen or dirt, dust, or some sort of debris, really trying to get into that opening. Obviously, as you can see there, we do a pretty good job of knocking that down. This can be a good visual representation of thermal separation too. Hot, humid air in the outside, right? We're preventing that from getting into open windows or open doors as well. Obviously, just at a smaller scale here. But that's the general idea for debris and dirt, dust control in kind of that regard. Now, the other videos I have here, again, more towards the pest control side of things. This is actually another video more, like I said, for flying insects. It's actually a toy helicopter, if you can imagine that being like a larger flying insect. But as you can see, right, we have the air curtain on there, and it does a pretty good job. The important thing I like to point out here is it's not just knocking down the helicopter, right, and that kind of being it could still get circulated in, but it's actually knocking it down and it's pushing it back out to the environment it came in. So if you imagine that being like I'll play it again here, like a flying insect coming in from the outside, it's knocking it down, but it's also keeping the bug out. So we're not actually, getting it sucked in or anything like that. And that just comes down to, the amount of development and improvement we've made with our air curtains kind of having that effect as well. All right, so couple of benefits, again, outside of just that flying insect space. That's obviously very important. But here's some other selling points that, I encourage everyone who maybe aren't aware of to really kind of think about and see potential opportunities with these as well. So, again, repel dirt, dust, debris, kind of already talked about that. Food safety, that's a really big one too. So, especially if we're talking about, which I'll touch on in a bit here, but something like using one of our UV units to prevent, some sort of food spoilage or bacterial growth on produce. That kind of goes into that next one there as well, with decreasing food spoilage and waste. If we're able to really just maintain, I guess, the quality of that produce, we're able to extend the shelf life of it. There's a certain level of savings you can get from having to reduce the amount of food you're having to throw away. And then, like I said, food safety in general, right? The food you're eating, you obviously want that to, you don't want that to be spoiled or have bacterial growth on it or anything like that. So, you're really just covering your bases in that regard as well. Sanitize with UVC and HEPA filtration. Again, already kind of touched on that, but that could also be in hospital settings, doctors' offices, right? Really anywhere that there could be some airborne pathogens, you can use our what we call our Clean Air Series units as well. Enhancing indoor air quality and overall customer experience. Those of you that work in the retail space, that's obviously really important. I would say, employee experience as well, right? Even if you have like a production plant or facility, making sure we're maintaining building temperatures there as well, can improve that experience too. So that's really important. Improving overall safety. That we see a lot, especially when we're talking about, cold storage applications, situations where you might have a humidity element or condensation issues. We've seen, applications where there's been condensation or water buildup on the floors by cooler doors and things like that, to the point where we've had, some customers say, hey, I'm having forklifts sliding through or crashing into walls, people slipping, especially if they're carrying things in through those openings. So, making sure the floors are dry and, people are safely able to walk through those doors is another way we can use air curtains as well. And then lastly, reducing building heating and cooling costs. That's really more in the thermal separation camp. But again, if you're able to maintain building temperatures, you're cycling compressors less, and that's really gonna use more of your electricity versus cycling, the motor of a 1/6 horsepower air curtain on and off. So again, that's more on the temperature side. But those of you that are in the pest space, maybe that's something that hadn't really come to mind, but could be another selling point if you find yourself in a position where you're talking about air curtains. Industry served. So these are the main industries we're in. The list is probably a little bit more extensive, but I think most of you probably already work in these industries. So we pulled this from it's a platform we use called Construct Connect, and that's basically a database that we use to track air curtain projects. That's how we got the intel. Hey, this is the most, these are the most common industries you guys work in. And like I said, I believe most of you guys probably work in some, if not all of these. So you're already in these industries. You're already aware of these projects in these spaces. So air curtains really shouldn't be something that you have to go out of your way, to sell separately. This should be something, hopefully most of you guys can incorporate in what you're already doing and what you're already selling. All right, so let's go into some common installations, right? Where do we typically see these? And again, those of you that haven't been on these webinars yet or aren't as familiar with air curtains, hopefully this will kind of get the wheels spinning and hopefully get you guys thinking about where else you can use air curtains. So we do anything from as small as drive-up windows, like you see on the left there, customer entrances, all the way up to 30-foot plus dock doors and everything in between. And like I said, we'll show you a couple of examples here and I'll kind of walk you through the various applications. So first and foremost, customer entrances, right? And again, especially from a pest control perspective, I think the sell here is hopefully you're able to stop that flying insect or pest control issue at the entry door, right? If you've got pest control equipment inside the building, and hopefully that's working out. But if it's filled with bugs, right, especially if you got customers with flying insect or pest issues, right, hopefully we can break that down a little bit or reduce the amount of really demand on that equipment by stopping them from getting in the first place. And then who knows, how else or what else could get contaminated inside the building, right? So you really just want to prevent the issue from the beginning at the entry door. So a couple of notes here, typically we recommend installing our air curtains on the inside of the door, like you see on the left there. If you have to install it on the outside, you can do that as well, like you see on the right, as long as it's covered by some sort of awning. And we also say if you have like a heating element, which I'll talk about, the options we have available there as well in a little bit. But if you have some sort of heating element, we recommend that being on the inside as well. So if it's just an unheated air curtain covered from the elements, you can do an outdoor installation as well if that just happens to make more sense. And sometimes, especially when flying insect control is the main concern, sometimes we've seen that actually being more effective. So, again, it really just kind of depends case by case on what you're looking to solve with the air curtain. And really just what your main concern is. And then in the installation, kind of your installation setup and things like that. Moving on here, receiving an interior separation. So, those of you that work in kitchens, food service folks, you probably, majority of your jobs are going to be back kitchen receiving doors, like you see on the left there. Obviously, flying insect control is a big component of that, especially if you deal with NSF 37. We do have units that are listed to that. Another thing I'll touch on a little bit here too, but it also prevents odors from getting out too. So not only are just the flying insects being prevented from getting in through that door when it's open, but those kitchen odors aren't escaping as much either. And hopefully that's going to kind of reduce the attraction of flies that can come to that back door. We also do lavatories. It's not as common of an installation, but it's something else we do, mainly again for odor control, but that can be for other odor control applications too. So I know smoking rooms or casinos, we also use air curtains for smoke control or odor control from seeping into either other parts of the building or getting really just somewhere where they don't want the odor to get into. And like I said, that really plays into preventing flies from being attracted to that building or that room in the first place. So another application we have, again, more in that interior separation for odor control as well. Next, we have architectural openings. So these are really just ones that are typically for customer entry doors, really just look a little bit nicer or kind of give you another alternative to what we typically offer, right? So on the left, you see our phantom unit, so recessed into the ceiling, I can see there in that coffee shop entrance. Also, if there's really just not space above the door, so obviously, also in that example, right, there's really no space above the door to install an air curtain externally. We do have phantom models available, so something to keep in mind. Architects like it because they get the benefits of air curtains without seeing it above the door. So, again, couple of various applications for those as well. On the right is it's actually our Quiet Pro. Now, again, a couple of cool benefits with the Quiet Pro. So first off, as the name states, right, it's about 25% quieter than comparable units. So if noise is a big concern, this could be a good option to look into. And it looks a little bit, I'd say, more architectural too, right? It's a little bit more of an oval shape. It's got an anodized aluminum finish. So in those higher end applications too, maybe you've got like a glass silver trim over an office building lobby or something like that. Quiet Pro could be a good option as well. And this was a really good option for the restaurant you see here too, as you see, we actually have those installed above the doors on the bottom there, right? Kind of allows them to open up the doors and prevent flies and hot, humid weather from getting in those summer months. I believe this was a restaurant in the Florida area. So hot, humid summers, but also large insects too, right? So those are also big issues. But what was really cool was that top picture, right? So you see the Quiet Pros are actually installed above the bar top that you see a couple people sitting there on the outside area. And like I said, right, in Florida in the summer, you've got big bugs, big flying insects down there too. So there was a couple of benefits in this application, right? Obviously, they're using the air curtains to prevent the conditioned air from inside from getting out because that bar was open, all the hours that they were open. But also, it actually helped with the flying insects too. So if you can imagine you're eating at a bar top outside, you got food there, flying insects, that's an easy target for them. And they were actually, obviously it's not a full size man door. So they were actually able to dial down the airflow on these units to kind of get it just right on that countertop. So it was actually preventing flies from getting on those people, getting on the food and the drinks that they were enjoying there, but without blowing everything around as well. So really cool application there. And again, just something else to kind of be aware of in terms of how we can use them. Warehouses and production facilities. So really big application there. You see on the left is a shipping receiving door. And again, concept is pretty much the same. It's just, as you see there, that's one of our larger units. That's one of our WMI units, which, like I said, if you got 20, 25, 30-foot dock doors, we can put you in something like that. And again, the benefits are the same: temperature control, flying insect control, depending on what they're looking to solve. It's just at a larger scale. The one on the right here is another really cool one. So that was actually a cooler room at a beer distributor. And those of you that have sat in on these webinars before have probably heard me talk about this one. But it's just a cool, again, a niche application and something to hopefully get you guys thinking about other opportunities. They actually use the air curtain here to prevent hot, humid air from getting into that that cooler room and actually damaging the cardboard boxes that you see on the right side there. It was actually so bad to the point they had to repackage product. They were throwing away product because the cardboard boxes were getting destroyed just from that humid air. So the air curtain in this application was able to really just prevent that from happening. They said it reduced it by about half, which was a pretty significant savings. Again, more on the labor side of that application. Pass-through windows, another pretty popular application. Pest control, food service probably most commonly, but I see pest control being an application for pest control as well. And, the reason why I say that is because if you think about, the walk-up service windows, but really those drive-through windows too, right? Those doors, those windows are opening right to the kitchen. So, I think it's really important when you're talking about making sure the indoor air quality is good. You're preventing flying insects from getting in, dirt, dust, car exhaust, all that's getting in through that drive-through windows, going directly into the kitchen and directly into the food that they're making for you and their customers. So I think that's often an overlooked application. For whatever reason, right? It's still an opening, maybe just on a smaller scale, but it's a very easy access point for flying insects, like I said, dirt, dust, debris, to get directly into that kitchen area, which could create a lot of problems. Patio dining. So again, very similar to the other example I showed you with the restaurant down in Florida. But again, I see a lot in the restaurant industry, especially, they like to have this open seating environment, right? So like you see on the left there, they got those roll-up doors during the day, especially in those summer, spring months, right? Where it's a little bit nicer. They've got those roll-up doors up. They want to have more of that open outdoor seating atmosphere, which is cool. But obviously that introduces some potential problems, be it, trying to keep that air conditioned air inside the building, or again, from that pest control side, right? You have those large doors open, that's a really easy way to get bugs, flying insects, to get into that restaurant, which obviously we don't want. So having the air curtains there really just helps prevent that issue, again, from getting started from the entry or from the exterior door before you're kind of having to deal with the issue when all the bugs and insects are already inside the building. So we're kind of, taking care of the problem before it happens, essentially, or reducing it significantly. Last example here, actually one more after this, but trash compactor is another one. And again, when we're talking about odors, right, being an attractant to these flies, if we're really just able to prevent that odor from getting in the building, not only are you reducing the amount of flies attracted to the building, but you're also able to knock them down. Now in this example, we actually have one of our UV units, which is really cool. So like I talked about, we can use UV for a couple different applications. The one I think I previously mentioned was, something like cold storage or produce applications where you can actually, we've done research and have continued to do more research and gotten good results in terms of preventing mold and pathogen growth on produce. So we're seeing that as a really good opportunity in these cold storage food applications. But, like I said, in the example you see here, the UV bulbs, it's actually the UVV technology, and that actually helps kill bacteria. So now you kind of get two benefits, right? In the application here, you're able to, separate the odors, right, from getting into the building, preventing the flies, obviously, as well. But now any of that odor that does possibly get in, that can be recirculated in that UV unit, and we can actually help kill that odor as well. So if you want that extra level of benefit from the air, and especially in an odor application, UV could be something else to look into as well. Last thing I'm going to touch on here is cold storage. Already talked about it a little bit, but really just, again, want to kind of reinforce the other benefits that you can use air curtains for, other than what I've already talked about. So I think one I haven't touched on yet is plastic strips, right? Especially in cooler applications. Air curtains, I think, are a good alternative to the plastic strips. Those in itself can get really dirty. They become cumbersome, right? Especially if those of you that are in cold storage or cooler applications a lot, right? Walking through those gets really cumbersome if you're carrying things in and out. A lot of times there's the service or the delivery people that are delivering the product in coolers, they're actually end up, just holding the strip curtains aside and then doing their delivery, which could take 20 minutes, whatever. And that's all, that's just cold air that's getting out of that cold storage room and ultimately costing more in terms of energy and things like that. So air curtains are a good contactless alternative to those strip curtains, and they're a little bit cleaner as well. Again, preventing mold and dirt buildup on those strip curtains. Now with coolers and freezers, we typically recommend installing them on the warm side. So just something to kind of make note of if you're thinking about potential cooler or freezer applications. Ideally, you put them on the warm side. Coolers, you can install them on the inside as well. Kind of just depends on the application. So if you want to do something more with the UV bulbs, like I had talked about earlier, that might be an application you want to install it in the cooler. But again, ideally, we want these on the warm side. Freezers, they have to be on the warm side. We can't do any installations inside freezers, so just something to note there. But we can do something like electric heat, and that's actually like what you see in the example here. And even though it seems counterintuitive, the electric heat actually helps, keep frost from building up on the door or on the floor. It's helping keeping any of that humidity really just evaporated in the air. So that's really what we can do in terms of freezer applications. Special applications and features. So this is just some some things to be aware of as well. So we can do 304 stainless steel units as well, if that's something you need, mainly for those more corrosive environment applications. We do have heat options available. Electric probably being the most common, depending on what the building has to offer or where you guys are located in the country. We also do have steam, hot water, or indirect fired gas available as well. And again, that really just helps prevent that wind chill at the door, especially in cold weather areas. Washdown construction. So if you're in, like a food processing plant or something like that, where you physically might need to take a hose to the unit to wash it down, it's another construction option we have available. Explosion proof is another thing we do. I've actually seen pest control equipment that is explosion proof, just in my own research. So I know that is something that those of you in the pest control space probably actually do as well, more in special applications. But again, it's something we do, especially if you're in like oil refineries, processing plants, dealing with fine metals or particulates, things that can get flammable. It is another option that we have for our units and accessories as well. Tamper-proof, more for schools, prisons, correctional facilities, if you really just want the unit accessed by specific clientele or facility maintenance managers, we can do that as well. And then lastly, clean air series. Like I talked about, we can do UV units or HEPA filters. That's another option we have. We have bipolar ionizers available as well with our units. Again, just really depends on what you or your customer is looking to solve and what they're most comfortable with or willing to put their, their money towards. So last slide is going to be resources available. Highly recommend those of you that are newer with Mars or not as familiar going to our website and kind of playing around there. We have quite a bit of resources available. We got a lot of videos. I know we have some on our website, but we also have videos on YouTube as well. So again, highly recommend checking those out. Those are all available, to the public. We have a good product selector program, on the website. So that just, kind of helps you get a starting point in terms of what unit you might need for your application, depending on, the size of the door and what you're really looking to solve with the air curtain. We have an ROI calculator that's more towards the thermal separation energy savings side. So those of you that are more on the HVAC side or material handling, that could be a selling point for you guys. Or like I said, even the pest control folks too, right? Could just be another tool or another way you can sell the air curtain to your customer. And then product information as well. So all of our product information is available on our website. If you need specification documents, our submittals or cut sheets are available on the website as well. Drawings, we have Revit files available, CAD files on our website, and then RFQs. So again, if you're looking for a quote or a price for an air curtain, not really sure where to start. Like I said, we either can put you in touch with a local rep there or, we'll help you out depending on who the customer is. But we do have like a whole form there, and we'll get those and should get back to you within 24 hours. So that's all I got. I again appreciate everyone for your time. I've had the teams closed, but I guess we'll take the last couple minutes here. If you guys got questions, I think you could probably put them in the chat. And then yeah, happy to. We have the team here as well, so anything I can't answer, we've got engineering on here as well, and hopefully we can answer any questions you guys might have.
All right,
I
we
don't know,
have a
Jazmin, do we have
question.
any? Oh yeah, go for it.
Yes, we have one question here. So, can air curtains stop crawling insects from entering the building?
That's a good question. Yeah. So I don't believe I talked about this. So in terms of crawling insects, I'll say this: air curtains we have tested towards for flying insects. That's really where we have the most benefit. Now, that doesn't mean we have no benefit towards crawling insects. It's just a little bit more variable, and I'll go into that a little bit more too. So it really depends on how they're getting in, right? So crawling insects. So like I said, if you think about it, air curtain installed above the door, right? The flying insects is going to be the most effective. If you have crawling insects, it still might work. We've seen instances where it still does work. Sometimes if it's really a problem or they're like a little bit larger crawling insects, we can also do like vertical installs where we're actually putting the air curtain vertically on the side of the door. So that's blowing kind of more uniform across. And we have seen a little bit more benefit with crawling insects doing that. But we're also, like I said, we're always improving our product offering as well. And it's something and another aspect of flying insect control we're continuing to improve upon. But like I said, typically a vertical installation, if the horizontal one isn't helping as much, could be a good alternative to help with those crawling insects as well.
And we have another question. Question number 2, can air curtains for fly control be used in residential applications as well?
Yes. Yeah. So typically, what we typically see in residential with air curtains, it's more for like your front entry door. We don't really see it as much. You can use it, but it would typically be more for like back patios. If you've got like, I've done a couple projects where they've had like a pergola or like an awning in the back, and a lot of times what a lot of people want to do in those applications is whether they're cooking for family or they really just want to sit in that back outdoor area. But again, a lot of times they have issues with flies. Like I said, if they've got food sitting out there, they've got people over, family, whatever it might be, they want to enjoy the backyard area without having to worry about the flies constantly getting around their food. So yeah, we have done some in those applications where you can do like even maybe like a phantom unit if it fits, so it's not exposed. But we have seen success with those where it's really just, again, kind of the same thing with those of you, especially in pest control that do residential applications. We've seen success with that in terms of preventing those flying insects from getting in those back patio areas or getting into the kitchen area. If they want to do something similar to like that restaurant example I showed, where they like having more of that open setup to where they like having the doors open and enjoying that outdoor space without necessarily having to worry about getting or the temperature issues as well.
All right, and another one here. Would a vertical air curtain be installed on the opening side or hinge side of the interior of a walk-in cooler door?
Yes, so you'd want to install it on the opening side. Obviously, as long as you just don't want the door to open up and block the airflow, right? Obviously, so yeah, you want to ideally install it on that opening side, and then again, kind of depending on what the application is, more of that produce extending shelf life versus just solely temperature control would be whether you want to install it on the inside or the outside, but ideally on the warm side as well.
All right, question number 4. How do you handle the gaps often found at the edges of roll-up doors or tracks to ensure pests don't just walk around the stream of air?
Yeah. So first and foremost, those are actually really good applications for vertical installations, right? Because of that reason, we're trying to avoid those gaps. Now, obviously, every installation is different. So if you have to install it sort of above or in front of like a drum or a roll up to where there's gaps, we can do a couple things. So first, we do have like side baffles available that you can install sort of on those gaps on the sides, right? And that'll kind of help prevent, I guess, pockets on the sides. Now, in terms of flying insects or insects getting in on the floor, really what we recommend doing is, so we have vanes right on the bottom of our air curtains. So if you imagine it's got to get offset a little bit for whatever reason, the best way to prevent things from getting in on the floor or from preventing holes or I guess uncovered areas on the bottom is to make sure those vanes are pointed back towards the door opening, to get the most coverage there. But also too, it's case by case. It's a very general answer. Depending on if there's something more particular to your specific job, we can always help you out with additional things on our end as well if needed. But those are the general ways I think we can best help those issues in terms of pockets, for those roll-up applications.
All right, and it looks like we have somebody that's raised their hand. I'm going to unmute your mic, Theo. Let me know if that's working for you on your end.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, very good. Yeah, my name's Teal, like the color. I apologize, it wasn't my idea. I operate an industrial bakery in Eastern North Carolina, and this is probably something, Chris, that we might want to take offline, but I need someone who can help me put together a comprehensive plan for my facility. Multiple exit doors, multiple doors going in and out of different areas of the plant. And I've been having trouble finding someone in this area, sales rep, if you like, who actually works for Mars that's not kind of a third party buyer. I'd really just like to have a Mars rep or somebody to come down here and kind of walk through this facility. It's about 350,000 square feet, and just help me put a plan together. Is that something I can stay back online with, or if somebody can give me a call on Teams, I can chat through it with them? I don't want to hold up the call for this.
Yeah. Why don't I don't know, Jazmin, maybe if you have, or either give him, okay, I would say give
With
me
Flower
his
Foods?
info.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Hey, Kurt, well, he can chat Jazmin, his contact info, and we will connect you with someone that can assist you.
But yeah, let's take that offline, because we'll probably get you. We want to get you the right local rep. So we'll figure that out offline, and then we'll get everyone on the same page there.
I got it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Perfect. And I think we have room for just one final question. So question number 5, does adding a heating element to the air curtain affect its ability to repel insects, or is it purely for employee comfort?
So I'll let, now as far as I know, and I'll let engineering jump in or whoever if they want. There really is no difference between heat or unheat with flying insects. So that would just be for, again, that wind chill effect, mainly in those cold areas when it's 10 degrees. I know we're having cold weather across a lot of the eastern side of the country now too. So when it's really cold like that, a lot of people don't want that cold air, blowing on them when they walk into buildings and things like that, or through the doors. So it's really just to kind of help, prevent that wind chill from happening.
Yeah, Kurt, you answer the question. Another item to consider is flies are not present during winter. It's mainly during the summertime, right? So you can turn the heat off, but the airflow is going to be pretty much the same. It'll still provide protection against flying insects, even if you get an electric heated air curtain. And the added benefit is you can have some thermal comfort in winter.
And thank you everyone again for for your time. Hope everyone has a good day and good rest of the week.